Hello, everyone. Welcome to How to Identify Technical SEO Problems, Strengths, and Trends on Your Website. Today, we're going to be talking about segmentation, and we're just going to wait a few seconds so that people who are still joining or who might be a minute or so late can climb in. While we're doing that, I might go ahead and get some of the housekeeping out of the way. This is how to find problems, strengths, and trends using segmentation on your website. I want to welcome everyone. I've listed things because I'm very bad at remembering them. So I'm glad to see all of you. Hi, Maureen. It's good to see you. Feel free to use the chat to say hello. You can also ask questions. There's a button below the chat to say any questions that you have to ask us during the day. We will get to them at the end. And for anyone who likes to ask this question, there will be a replay. So you'll receive it in a few days and you can share it with your friends or just play it again. And so with that, I'll tell you who we are and what we're going to talk about today. I'm Rebecca Barbell. I'm the Product Marketing Manager at Oncrawl. And I'm joined today by two of my coworkers. Yasmin. Hi, Yasmin. How are you?
Fine, and you? And happy to be here with all of you.
Good. I'm glad to have you. It's always good to have a product owner and a different perspective in a webinar. And Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. Nice to be here.
It's good to see you too. We don't see each other as much.
Yeah, it's true.
Sarah is an SEO strategist, so she's frequently in contact with our users. She knows a lot about SEO and how that works and how to use Oncrawl in specific use cases. So we'll get a lot of insights from her today. And we wanted to say thank you to Oncrawl for hosting here because segmentation is a subject that we all wanted to talk about. And so we're glad to have the space and time to do that. Oncrawl, if you're not familiar with us, we are a technical SEO data platform. Our objective is to be able to support your competitive digital strategy and make sure that you are visible on search engines. And we've noticed that the users who get the most out of what we can offer are people who are very interested in rich data, being able to cross-analyze or blend that data, who need to be able to scale for very large websites, who need to break that information down, so get a lot out of our segmentation feature, and people who are interested in looking at performance over time, back data, access to that data, and comparison between a before and after. So let's get into what are we going to talk about. We'll go over what is segmentation, but from the people I see around here, this is probably something that you already know, so that'll be fast. We'll look briefly at what is segmentation in Oncrawl. There are a few new things that have come up recently. And that way, if later on we talk about something that's specific to Oncrawl, you'll have the framework to know what we're talking about. Then we'll get into the meat of what we want to get over today, which is driving insights with segmentation. Sarah has some great tips and top takeaways, and then we'll take your questions. So segmentation is basically grouping pages together and grouping groups of pages. So why do we want to do this in technical SEO? Just a quick demonstration. If you look at all pages on a website together, you get an overall view. But this view may or may not be true for the pages that you're interested in. So this is us looking at an entire website and whether or not pages give signals to search engines that they should be indexed. Here, there's 60% of the pages. But if I really want to concentrate, say, on event pages, which are on the right, they may be under or overrepresented in the full website. So looking at the website might not tell me what those pages actually do. I can also then compare a single group to other groups within the website to know how they perform compared to other groups. Is it evenly distributed, or do I have groups that outperform others or underperform compared to the website as a whole? Not only that, but I can also begin to see trends across the entire website when I look at a specific metric. So here, for example, we're looking at a segmentation based on the number of clicks received in Google Search Console. More clicks is a group of pages that has green, has become green, and pages that have fewer clicks are red, and they are grouped together as well. So you can see that the deeper we get into a website, so level 1 is the home page and so on to 5 clicks away from the home site, the less we have in number of clicks. And that becomes a really easy way to see trends. So that gives us 3 reasons to use segmentation: to focus on a group of pages, to compare groups of pages across a website, and to spot trends in a much easier way. So with that, I really want to hand this over to Yasmin because there are some new things in segmentation in Oncrawl recently, and Yasmin has headed some of the projects that have led to those. So Yasmin, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rebecca. So I will present you what we did new for this feature of segmentation. Basically, the first one that we did is we allowed the possibility to segment automatically by field. Now you have the possibility to use various different fields and even the custom ones to create automatically segmentation in a quick way. The second part is that we allowed you to segment by subgroups quickly for all existing groups. Before you needed to create subgroup one by one. Now in the top level, you have the possibility to create subgroups within all groups. And the third one is basically we allowed you to exclude or include the group other. This group represents the uncategorized URL. And now we have provided you the possibility to exclude this group from your segmentation so that it doesn't appear anymore on your charts. But now we'll show you how it looks like in the application. Okay, so here you have the project page and you can in here configure your segmentation. And when you click on your segmentation, as you have seen in here, we changed the naming to make it more relevant on how you need to create, how you want to create your segmentation. And we made a huge change regarding the automatic way. So when you click on it, you have in here a various range of different fields where you can create automatically your segmentation. For example, if I choose the status code category, and then click on preview, you will see in here that we have the possibility to create up to 4 different types of category. And I excluded the group other. And if I click on here, I will see that this group other is included. So I will just exclude it from the beginning. And then I click on next. And in here, I can put the name regarding this segmentation and a quick description on what to explain what this segmentation is for. And then you click on create segmentation. Once you have done this, you have in here the possibility, 2 different types of possibility. The include group other, because I already excluded it. And the one that will interest you is the add subgroup for each group. So basically in here you have the possibility for each group to create subgroups. Either you can do it by field, or you can use another segmentation that you have already made to retrieve the same field that you have already done. So for example, I use is indexable. I can preview the subgroups, and in here I see that I have only 2 values, and then I created them. And you can see in here either the different subgroups created within the group. And then I click on save.
Yasmin, for you, what is one of the major advantages for using segmentations in Oncrawl? It's not only powerful to create, but there are other ways that you can use it that make it interesting.
Yeah, the interesting part is that when you see and analyze your chart, you have the possibility to apply the segmentation you just created, or to switch really quickly on another. For example, now I just created this one, and then I will go back to the project part and to the project that you're interested in, to your last crawl. And when you filter the data, you can see in here the one I just created, the status code.
So you can see on the pages by groups there.
And if you want, you can go.
That's cool.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks, Yasmin.
Welcome.
Do you have any ideas that you can tell us now about what are some of the goals for this feature?
The key goals for the future regarding this feature is that we have many ideas to how to make evolve this feature. But the first thing is that since we just deployed this evolution, we need to analyze how you use it, and so that we can provide you a pertinent evolution regarding this feature. Of course, if you have ideas, insights, do not hesitate to send us.
Thanks. With that, we're going to move over to then how do you use that type of segmentation to drive insights? And I'll pass the mic over to Sarah. Sarah, what are the types of things that you can unlock by using a segmentation? Really broad question there.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. So yeah, it's a really broad question, but I guess the answer is it depends, as it happens often in SEO. It really, I guess, depends on the type of segmentation you want to create, and we will see some examples afterwards, some concrete case studies. But I guess the main insight that every segmentation will help you unlock is the possibility to have a granular way of your site and to really compare the page groups against one another according to different metrics. So while you generally have in the crawl an overview of the total issues and problems that might affect your site, segmentation allows you to really deep dive into the different groups of your choice and find information and nuances that are harder to get in a broader crawl. And so I think it's always good to start with an idea or an hypothesis that you would like to test, and use the segmentation to validate it and or debunk it, and to look it also at it from a different angle. So yeah, I think this is the best type of value that you can get out of the segmentation. And then another question that we get asked pretty often is, how do I create a useful segmentation, and how do you choose the right metrics? So also here, as I mentioned already, it's really good to start with an hypothesis. So for instance, you might think that based on the general SEO rule, that the pages that have the most backlinks also get crawled more frequently by the Google bots. And you can use the segmentation by backlinks to prove it or debunk it. And you might find some really, really interesting insights and discover that maybe some ranking factors that are generally considered as relevant, when you apply the segmentation and really analyze the specific segment in your context, those ranking factors are actually not as important. Another way to create a useful segmentation would be to start from a project that you're working on and analyze the impact of your work. So it's really good to tie the segmentation you create on a project you're working on or on a metric you're trying to improve, because that will really allow you to see the correlation between factors. And then in terms of metrics, again, it depends. It really depends on the nature of your business and what the current focus of your work is. For instance, if you are going a content optimization process, the metrics that are related to duplication content and internal linking are probably most relevant for you in that specific case. If you're working on a backlink campaign, then metrics such as rankings and impressions are probably more meaningful. Or if you run a media site, for instance, and you have a lot of JavaScript usage on your site, and core web vitals as well might be very important to you. But you can also you might want to study the page templates according to the performance in terms of core web vitals and JavaScript rendering. So yeah, this type of segmentation can deliver a lot of useful insights for you. So again, it really depends on the website you're working on and what the scope of your work is. And yeah, this is the beauty of segmentation. So it really adapts to your processes and the campaigns. And yeah.
Does that mean, I know that you prepared some real examples of how that works. Do you think we can get into some of those?
Of course, we can have a look at them. So I guess the first one, it's a pretty basic one, rather standard, but it's a segmentation by SEO sessions. So using this segmentation, you can really effectively study what are the pages that attract the most organic traffic on your site, and on the contrary, the pages that tend to attract less. And you can uncover what is successful for the pages that are really are getting a lot of organic traffic, like the content, the internal linking strategies that you have applied on them, and use them to gain insights on how you can replicate them on other pages as well. And on the contrary, you can identify the underperforming pages that need optimization, and you can cross-analyze also whether the pages that receive the highest amount of traffic are also the most scrolled by the Google bots. You know, it might be this way, but it might also be differently. And if we get a bit more in the practical, in a practical, let's say, mood, we can also check, for instance, by using the segmentation by session, whether the pages that receive a lot of organic traffic are affected by status codes that are not 200. So again, you might find some granularity here that is very helpful, because obviously the pages that receive a lot of organic traffic, we want them to return the proper status code and not be affected by status code errors like 403 or 404s. So this is the type of insight that this kind of segmentation can give you. Another type of insight that you can draw from the segmentation by sessions is to check the problematic duplicate content issues. Again, you might discover that pages that get a lot of organic traffic have this kind of problem. So this will give your teams a priority to work on, because obviously, I mean, if I was looking at this graph and was managing an SEO project, I will probably action the pages that get more traffic and solve the problematic content that is affecting them first, before moving then to the other groups. So see how the segmentation really ties into the process of your SEO work and can help you prioritize your actions.
With this particular one, I saw something interesting the other day. With a very large site that was having crawl budget problems. Most of that sort of extra crawl budget waste was actually in those brackets of duplicated pages that get a lot of traffic.
All right.
So segmenting by that allowed them not only to say, oh yeah, we have lots of duplicated content, or a significant amount of duplicated content with high volume pages, but also that's where we're losing crawl budget.
Crawl budget, yeah. See, it's a very simple one to start with, but you see how it already unlocks some very precious insight that can make a difference in your website performance. Another really good one, especially for media and editorial sites, is a segmentation based on publication dates. And what's really interesting about this segmentation is, I think, two things. In terms of setup, you can use regex, regular expressions, to really to create a dynamic rule. So you don't have to go in the app and change the segmentation with the actual dates, but the segmentation will basically automatically adapt as you run the new crawls. So this is really handy, and it's very useful again for content teams to keep track of the of how old the articles are and how they perform. And you can also combine this dynamic segmentation with the alerting feature that allows you to get an alert whenever the number of pages that are older than, for instance, 6 months or 1 year are higher than the 1 or 10. So it really, you can really get this type of alerts that allows your content team to keep their processes and keep their flow and integrate additional rework or analysis into their processes. So I think it's a very useful one for content-heavy websites. Again, just a couple of examples of insights that use this type of segmentation. So the first one, I guess, it's checking the distribution of content production over time and see if there's a regular trend in it and if it matches mostly the business seasonality. So, for instance, we are approaching winter, and let's say you have an e-commerce that is selling ski or winter sports related product. Obviously, if you have a magazine in it and if you have a blog, you want your articles production to be heavier in months like October and November. So by, again, segmenting by publication date and then group the pages using this information, you can see whether you're actually leveraging those months for to produce most of the content. And also you can analyze the articles that were published at the same time this year, 1 year ago, and see if they need a revamp. Maybe they need updated content. Maybe they need internal link revamp. You might want to update the dates in the title tags or in the meta description. So this type of segmentation really ties into this kind of improvements that you can do to your magazine. Another example, which is really connected to the previous one. So you might obviously see that there's some visibility decay after some time that the content, the articles are published. And as we can see from this graph, for instance, we have a lot of articles, so we have a lot of pages that are more than 1 year old, that are ranking, let's say, in position 4 to 20, and it's the majority of the pages in this specific group. So again, this will give you insight that there's an opportunity to analyze these pages, analyze these articles, and make sure that they are refreshed and updated in order to push their rankings higher in the upcoming months and get ready for the for the new season, for the new spike in searches. So yeah, this is a very useful one, and I recommend you adopt it if you have a media site, an editorial site. One last example on this one, obviously, is the performance. So we know how important the load time is for content sites. And again, from this graph, we can see that a higher proportion of pages that are older than a quarter is really is quite slow. So it might be that they are on an old template, or might be that they are they have a lot of images, or maybe they contain some media, or maybe there's some issue with the plugins. There could be a lot of reasons, but we definitely see that as the posts get older, the performance in terms of load time tends to decay. So we need to again look into them and analyze what can be done in order to improve them. Another example, I'm just going to go a bit quicker here. It's the number of products listed on category pages. And this is, again, obviously for e-commerce, a very useful one, because by segmenting the product pages, the category pages by the products, you can identify crawlability and indexation issues, problems related to performance, and just an overall have an overview of how the different groups perform in terms of impressions and clicks. And this is a very useful segmentation to find the sweet spot in terms of crawlability, performance, and traffic. And it can really help not only the SEO team to really structure the page in a way that have the right number of products, but also can help the usability and the UX teams to really make templates that are effective based on the data you get from Oncrawl, from the analysis. So see also how this type of segmentation is not only relevant to SEO, but can really facilitate and help the work of other teams. So really, really useful. This is just an example of how it can be set up. So in this case, the segmentation by product listed is based on a scraping rule, so you see the name of the rule of the segment of the rule that defines the number of products, and then you can create segments that contain the number of product that you really want. So it's really flexible. Another example. So from this chart we can see that there's an issue related to canonicalization for the pages that have over 500 products. So again, this is an insight that you might not get from the default segmentation, from the generic crawl, but obviously we have something to look into here, because if pages that have so many products have a canonical problem, then we might it's something that it's affecting pages that are clearly important, given the amount of products that they host. So it's a very precious insight that can, again, allow you to make some changes and make the pages canonical if needed. And these are just a couple of more ones. So in the first one, we can see that the more products a PLP has, the less likely is to rank. So again, this is let's say a proof of that probably the amount of products that could be listed on the page in order to rank and to get crawled and to get ranked is probably lower. And also we also have a weight, which is a weight issue, which is correlated to the ranking chart above. So obviously, the more products a page has, the more heavier it is. And obviously, page speed is still a ranking factor, and it's quite an important one, especially for e-commerce. So it's another aspect to be considered and solved in order to improve the performance.
That's actually a really good thing to bring up, because you mentioned earlier using segmentation for SEO testing, and this would be a great thing to test. Yeah. How many product listings should be on a product page? Does that make a difference for how they rank, and where is the limit?
Yeah, exactly. And this is the type of again, you can do an hypothesis, you have an idea of how or a goal you're trying to achieve, and this type of segmentation can really help you unlock answers that are based on data. So really, really useful for e-commerce. Another one, it's segmentation based on backlinks. So backlinks, as you know, in Oncrawl can be either imported via the Majestic connector, or you can ingest a file with the backlinks from another platform. And this is very useful because obviously it allows you to understand what are the pages that receive most of the backlinks. And first of all, understand if they are affected by some technical issues, because they might receive a lot of backlinks, so a lot of authority from external sites. But if they are affected by content issues or performance issues, then we're kind of we are kind of mining, let's say, the positive effect of the backlinks. Also check if the internal links that are generated from the pages that have the most authority. And just to get a bit more in the detail. So in this graph, for instance, we see that in proportion, there's a highest amount of pages that receive many backlinks that do not rank in the SERPs. So this is like a very good graph to start asking ourselves some questions and do some deeper analysis. These pages, for instance, might be affected by a technical issue or a content issue. And again, this is clearly shows that the backlinks is not, in this case, a metric of success, because pages that are really authoritative from an external point of view are actually perform pretty poor in terms of ranking. Then another one, so we can check whether the pages that receive a lot of backlinks are also used effectively for internal linking. And this is something that I don't think there's a lot of intentional activities on this. So backlinks are kind of, they can be random, and I get that. But at the same time, once you have a lot of backlinks, it's really important to leverage them to drive the authority from those pages to the newer or the less visible ones. And in this graph, you can see that the average followed outlinks in the pages that have the most backlinks is actually lower than every other group. So again, this suggests that we could do some further optimization and increase the number of internal outlinks from the pages that have the highest authority, external authority. And just a few more examples. Another one is the segmentation by number of internal links. So we can really use this segmentation to understand whether the pages that receive most of the internal links are, where are they located, if they're very deep in the site, or they are in fact quite close to the start URL, the home page. Rebecca, feel free to jump in if you want to add something. And then another insight we can get, it's based on the internal linking. Segmentation is a word count evaluation, so we can address the content quality of the pages that receive the most internal links. And also we can check if there's any issue related to duplication. In the graph, in the second graph here, the one at the bottom, you can see that there's a gap.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd actually asked the person who was working with this site, and they said, yes, there's nothing listed there, because they actually addressed all of the duplication issues in that particular section.
In the group, in those
because groups, it was. So this is actually the after view, when they noted that there were some major issues in that particular area with duplication and word count. So you see that they've really worked on the word count in the sections that are all the way over to the right. So the blue line goes up fairly high, the average word count in those sections. And then in the bottom part, they completely eradicated any duplicate content in the second and third sections from the right. And the green bar is all duplicate content that is canonicalized correctly. So they did a major work there and actually saw a bunch of results. I don't have they couldn't share the actual numbers, but that was a really interesting case study.
Very, and and it really allows you also to compare, to have a measure of the goodness of the work you do. So by having this type of segmentation and measure it before and after, it can really, also be a good indicator of success of the work you're doing. So,
right. So they have ROI on what is actually the work that they performed, and they also have results in what is the effect of this
There you go. So, another example is the segmentation by status code. So again, in this chart is really interesting because we can see that the crawl budget allocated by Google to the different pages is actually skewed towards the pages that return a server error. So again, this gives you an insight that the status code return has an impact because we are actually a lot of the pages that Google tend to visit more return our server error. So this is something that immediately demands some attention and some further analysis.
I think depending on the site, that might vary a little bit. If I saw that on, say, Oncrawl's site where we don't have a lot of pages and we don't necessarily have a lot of server errors, that might, to me, say that if I do see an occasional server error, it's not an end of the world scenario, because Google will come back and visit that to see if we've fixed our problem. On the other hand, if I saw this on a site with millions of pages, I'd be very concerned because I'd be much more attentive to crawl budget in general.
Yeah, exactly, and it really depends on the context. By having the context and you know what it is based on the project you're working on, your site you're working on, you can check whether this graph is kind of an alert for you, or if it's something that it's kind of a acceptable.
Yeah, but in both cases, I found it was a really interesting information to have because you know whether or not you need to react.
Yeah, exactly. And then one more here. So here we have segmentation by page type, and we can check, for instance, whether there are orphan pages in the sitemap by page type. So it's another useful graph to check and see whether we have a full coverage of the pages of your product pages in the website structure. And if not, why they are missing from there. So again, it's a very useful one for e-commerce. We can also look at the product pages that are not linked in the site structure but are present in the sitemap. So again, another very useful one, because obviously we want the sitemap to match the website architecture and vice versa. So especially when it comes to products and in heavy shopping seasons like this one or the upcoming Christmas, it's really important that we have a clean situation in the sitemap and in the structure as well. Last one, I think, it's an example of a more complex segmentation, which uses regex, and basically we can create groups based on the facet navigation elements. So here we have an example. We have by color, material, sale, and by style. And again, this allows for e-commerce to study the different facets and understand whether there's any technical or performance issues affecting them, and isolate the problem to only one, and be able to just make fixes and address them individually.
Do you want to skip ahead to the tips and takeaways at this point?
Yeah. There you go. So
I'll let you talk about these. I thought they were really well expressed. So one of the things that you had told us when we started talking about this, that you really want to start with a segmentation based on the patterns in your URLs.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess this is the simple way to start a segmentation, and it allows you to basically start looking at your website in a more granular way. So if you are afraid to or don't know where to start, this would be a good starting point for you to start getting your hands dirty a little bit. So this would be the first tip on my end.
Oops.
Sorry.
I'm both excited to change this slide. I like this one. This was one of my favorite ones. Incorporate business metrics into segmentations.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So if you can incorporate, for instance, revenue by product or by product category or the product conversion rate, if you're an e-commerce, that can really help you identify insights and also prioritize the work based on what really has an impact on the bottom line. So I always say the richer the segmentation is, so the richer, the data you put into Oncrawl, the more opportunities for segmentation and for granularity you have. And business metrics are obviously very important because they can help you prioritize the work based on the data you get.
They also help a lot when you talk about ROI and justifying why you're doing this type of work.
Yeah.
Really, really important. Use multi-level segmentations.
Yeah, this is another really precious one. Multi-level is very useful also, especially I would say in e-commerce. You might want to create, for instance, macro group for specific categories, like say women, men, children, and then create a multi-level segmentation to really explore the performance of the different product categories under the macro groups. So it really, again, helps you drive more granular insight and compare the different groups across the ranking factors more effectively.
I've seen this also in page publication date segmentations as well, where you look at recent articles with a really close granularity, and then you just have an archive section. And that archive section, then you can drill down into it and look at how old is the archive. Is it from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, maybe also.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was going to say another example of multi-level that might be useful for editorial ones would be to, for instance, create groups for the different categories of your blog or of your magazine, and then create a subgroups with the authors that wrote the articles and magazine, and see how, you know, the performance of the different categories also is attributed to the different authors that write the articles. Not to fire them, but just to see where they can improve.
What's actually been really interesting about that is that sometimes you find that what correlates to a really well-performing article tends to be things that an author does repeatedly, and it's very easy to see that they might not be your top authors in terms of who writes the most articles, but it makes it much easier to see which authors are really appropriate for SEO.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's also another good take.
The next one is regularly update and refine segmentations. Why would you have to update a segmentation?
Yeah, I mean, again, segmentation, as we discussed, they can change based on the project you're working on, based on your needs, based on the also the goals that your SEO team has. So I always recommend to refresh the segmentation and refine it. You don't even have to start from scratch, but you can use the same segmentation that you already built, but maybe add multi-layer to them. Or maybe you can even create new projects and use segmentation that you've used previously in one project to a new one, because it can matches the same. It matches the same needs and the same work you're doing. So, and it just helps you getting, you know, staying relevant and produce insights that are relevant and informed for the work you're doing. So it's really a win-win, really.
And the final one, you said focus on the key aspects that align with your business and with your SEO objectives.
Yeah, exactly.
That speaks for itself.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's everything you do in SEO, in technical SEO, ties to a business side. So always try to build segmentations that have an attachment and a connection to something that has an impact on the business. And yeah, that really it's crucial and very important for you.
Okay, thank you very much. And that means we can move on to questions. There are a couple already in the questions tab. Feel free to add yours if you have more. I think one of the first ones that we wanted to answer was the idea of what is different between Oncrawl segmentation and something you might see, say, in Screaming Frog. We were really excited to see Screaming Frog get that capability in this past summer, because we know how important that is, and that's definitely a feature that you want to have in any tool that you're using. There are multiple ways that what we do differs from what Screaming Frog does. Some of it is just how it works. So when you're creating a segmentation in Oncrawl, let me see if I can pull up an example. You can see in some of the examples that Sarah was talking about earlier, let's see if I can just grab one of the slides. Up in the top right, the top left, sorry, here, there's a circle with different parts of it. And that's actually showing you in real time, as you modify your segmentation, how the pages in your site break down into that segmentation. So the different groups that you've listed here and the different way that you've defined each group changes in real time based on any of the given crawls that you want to apply this to as you're creating it. So there are different ways of creating it, and it's much more real time. Likewise, when you go to apply it, and I think I've got another image here of applying a segmentation. When you look at a graph in Oncrawl, you can apply any segmentation and you can switch between segmentations. A segmentation is essentially a group of groups. So in the page that we're looking at the moment, there's a group 0, there's a group that's green, a group that's orange. Each of those groups is a segment in Screaming Frog, but Screaming Frog can't group them together and then show you multiple different groupings. So if we're looking at a specific metric, say the number of clicks or the publication date, Screaming Frog is going to have a hard time isolating all of the different groups related to publication date and showing them on the same graph like we see here. So basically the flexibility that you have to group groups and to create them is something that is very different in Oncrawl versus Screaming Frog. Don't stop using Screaming Frog if that's what you're using. That's a very good thing to have in addition to a tool like Oncrawl. So there you go. I think the other question, do we have similar visualizations to Screaming Frog? Yeah, yes and no. Some of them we aren't going to necessarily have created specifically because, as you can see, since we can group segmentations, we can look at, say, only a specific context for a similar URL path and for depth. So we do have graphs made just for that. And by grouping the segments that are associated with that, so having a segmentation based on URL path or based on, what was the other example? The depth, you can look at a graph that is only about those specific things. Do we have another question there? I think we saw a couple questions in the back. I think there was a question that we saw earlier about mixing 2 fields in a segmentation. Is that possible?
I don't see it.
Do one of you want to answer that question? Can you mix multiple fields? So use multiple metrics in the same segmentation?
You can go yes if you want.
The easy answer to that is yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, you can. Actually, you can do it to mix different fields. The only thing is that you won't be able to do it in an automatic way. You have to do it group by group.
So you can create a segmentation automatically and then add a second field, or you can just start from scratch and create both. Yes. Okay. If there aren't any more questions, I will remind you that you can reach out to us anytime you'd like. Oh, we do have another question. Let's see. Do we think there's a feature? This is a question. Do we think if we had a rank tracker? We are starting to track rank through Google Search Console data. So if you're interested in that, please reach out, and we'll talk about that later. If you need to contact us, you can find us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or you can email us. And we'll be happy to answer different questions at that point. Thanks for joining us today. It was great to talk to all of you and to see so many people here. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Yasmin, for bringing your expertise.
Rebecca. Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you both.